private rehabilitation wing of the city's most expensive hospital was silent, broken only by the soft hum of machines. 12-year-old Emily Carter stared at the ceiling, her eyes dull, her hands resting motionless on the blanket. Once, she had been full of life, running, dancing, laughing louder than anyone else. But after the accident, everything had stopped. Her father, Daniel Carter, CEO of a global tech empire, stood near the window in his tailored suit, looking powerful to the world, but completely helpless here. Money had bought the best doctors, the best treatments, and the best equipment. Yet every specialist said the same thing in carefully chosen words. The chances were very low. Emily had stopped asking questions. She no longer talked about walking again, she barely spoke at all. That morning, Daniel watched as a janitor quietly mopped the floor near the doorway. The man looked ordinary, mid-30s, tired eyes, worn shoes. A hospital badge read, Michael, Maintenance. With him was a small boy, about the same age as Emily, sitting on a bench doing homework. Daniel frowned. Visitors weren't allowed during work hours, but before he could say anything, Michael noticed Emily's eyes were open. He slowed, then gently asked, "Is it okay if my son sits here for a bit? He likes quiet places." Emily didn't respond, but she didn't look away either. Michael's son glanced at her wheelchair and smiled kindly. "My dad says heroes don't always stand up," he said softly. Something flickered in Emily's eyes. Michael finished his work, and as he turned to leave, Emily suddenly whispered, her voice barely audible, "Does it hurt when you lose hope?" The room froze. Michael stopped. He walked back slowly and knelt so they were eye to eye. "Yeah," he said honestly, "but hope isn't something you lose forever. Sometimes it just hides, waiting for someone to call it back." Daniel watched, stunned. No doctor had spoken to his daughter like that, not as a patient, but as a person. Michael hesitated, then added quietly, "I'm a single dad. My wife was paralyzed before she passed. I learned things doctors don't teach." Emily's fingers twitched just slightly. Michael leaned closer and whispered, "I'll help her." And for the first time in months, Emily smiled. The therapy room fell silent after Daniel's quiet promise. The CEO, Victor Hale, studied the single dad with guarded skepticism, but something in Daniel's calm eyes made him pause. He had seen countless specialists, doctors, and miracle sellers walk through these halls. None spoke with this kind of steady certainty. Daniel knelt beside Lily's wheelchair, lowering himself to her level. "I won't touch you unless you say it's okay," he said gently. Lily hesitated, then gave a small nod. Her fingers trembled as she rested her hand on the armrest. "I was in an accident too," Daniel continued softly. "Doctors told me I'd never walk properly again. They weren't completely right." He shifted slightly, revealing the faint limp he carried. Recovery isn't magic. It's patience and trust. Victor clenched his jaw. "We've tried everything," he said sharply. "Private clinics, experimental treatments, nothing worked." Daniel didn't argue. "Then let's try something simple," he replied. "Not to walk, just to feel." He guided Lily through small breathing exercises, encouraging her to close her eyes. The room filled with slow inhales and exhales. Daniel placed a warm towel over her legs, explaining how heat could awaken nerve awareness. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was careful, intentional, human. Minutes passed. Lily's face, once tight with resignation, softened. "Daddy," she whispered suddenly. Victor leaned forward, heart pounding. "I can feel something, like pins, not pain, just there." Victor froze. Daniel smiled but kept his voice steady. "That's good. That means the signals are still trying. We don't rush them." Tears welled in Victor's eyes, something no boardroom battle had ever managed to do. For the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a lie. Over the next days, Daniel returned after his janitor shifts, refusing payment. He worked with Lily patiently, celebrating the smallest progress, a twitch, a sensation, a moment of confidence. Lily began to laugh again, to believe. One evening, Victor found Daniel sitting alone in the hallway. staring at a photo of his young son taped inside his phone case. "My wife passed away," Daniel said quietly without being asked. "Helping Lily. It reminds me why I keep going." Victor extended his hand, no longer as a CEO but as a father. "Stay," he said. "Not as charity, as family." And for Lily, that whisper, "I'll help her," had already begun to change everything. The therapy room was silent except for the soft hum of medical equipment and the distant sound of rain tapping against the windows. Emma lay on the padded table, her small hands clenched in fear. Months of failed treatments had taught her not to hope. Hope, for her, always hurt more than the pain. Daniel stood beside her, his voice calm but steady. "I won't promise miracles," he said gently, "but I promise I won't give up on her." The CEO watched from the corner of the room, his expensive suit suddenly feeling meaningless. For the first time in years, he wasn't a powerful executive, just a father desperate to see his daughter smile again. Daniel began slowly. His hands guided Emma's legs with practiced care, explaining every movement so she wouldn't be afraid. At first, nothing happened. Emma stared at the ceiling, tears sliding quietly down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It never works." Daniel leaned closer. "Emma," he said softly, "don't think about walking, just think about feeling." He placed her feet flat on the floor and asked her to close her eyes. "Imagine standing in warm sand," he said. "Imagine the ground holding you up." Minutes passed. The CEO's heart sank. Then Emma gasped. "I felt something," she said, her voice trembling. "Daddy, I felt my toes." The room froze. Daniel nodded, not surprised, but deeply focused. "That's your body remembering," he said. "It's still there, it just needed time." With support, Emma slowly shifted her weight. Her knees shook violently, but they didn't collapse. The CEO covered his mouth, tears streaming freely now. "One step," Daniel whispered. Emma cried out, half in fear, half in disbelief, as her foot moved forward. The machine beeped wildly. Nurses rushed in. Doctors stared, stunned. "She's activating neural response," one of them whispered. This shouldn't be possible." But it was. Emma took another step, then another. Finally, exhausted, she fell into Daniel's arms, laughing and crying at the same time. "I did it," she sobbed. "Daddy, I did it." The CEO dropped to his knees, pulling her close. In that moment, no deal, no fortune, no company in the world mattered more than the miracle standing in his arms. Later, as Daniel quietly packed his bag, the CEO stopped him. "You saved my daughter," he said. "Tell me what you want." Daniel smiled gently. "I already have it," he replied. "Hope, passed on." And for the first time in years, the CEO truly understood what wealth meant.